How's it going, everybody? It's Kai with KAIDRAGONMEDIA, and today we have a fantastic interview with Mukya VT, and I had an honor to interview with her to discuss her origins, as well as the time at Virtux, and then the time after Virtux. It was a fascinating interview. I really loved it, and I wish her all the best. So without further ado, let's get on to the video. Don't forget to smash that like button, and let's jam. Don't touch that dial, everybody, and welcome back to the Dragon's Lair. Today we are at the Content Creators Corner. We're doing another interview with Mukya. How are you doing today?
Good. It's warm, but not too bad now that it's nighttime, so it's getting good.
Well, it's still warm here too. It's about 90. Well, it was 90. I think it's down to 80 now. But yeah, I wish it was a little cooler though.
Honestly, yeah, anything over like 80 is like, it's manageable with like a fan and like some, shorts or whatever. But anything over 80 is way too hot for me. I can't even.
Yeah, I'm like 70s or 60s. That's my ideal weather. Anything below that or above it is just too much. And it's like, nah. How we're going to do this is we usually ask a series of questions because we want to hear your story. And so this is how we do this.
Okay.
And so my first question for you, how long have you been in content creation?
So I started in December, I want to say 2022. That's when I first started streaming. I kind of was thinking about it like that summer. I started reconnecting with some friends that I started talking to, that I met from Twitch, and I started connecting to them again, in the summer of 2022. And then I was just like, you know what? I've always wanted to do streaming, but there's this newer thing called VTubing. So I was just like, I'll check that out, try that, see how that goes. Because I see some people doing it as like PNG. They don't have a full 2D model or 3D model. So that's when I first started doing it, just for fun, just to kind of see how I liked it. And then I kind of just really liked it.
Did you start then as a PNG?
Yes, I started as PNG tuber. I rebranded last May. I was a zombie panda, so I still had the one eye and everything, but I changed it up in May last year, when I officially came out as my current model, Live 2D.
How did you come up with the concept for the character?
One of my best friends that I've known for about 10 years, she, myself, and another friend were going to do a podcast based off of different books. We could never really get it together because it's like either one of us had the book or none of us had the book that we wanted to read. So we're kind of like, it was hard to do, especially because timing. One of the people that was going to do the podcast with us was in Australia. So it's kind of hard to schedule things when we have somebody from the East Coast, somebody from the Pacific Coast, and somebody from Australia. And so we had these characters drawn up, and when we were each getting our character, I was like, I want a zombie panda. I don't remember why I picked that. It just kind of stuck with me. And so when I started streaming, I was just like, might as well just use that image that I had already and do the zombie panda. And so just kind of did that and kept with the undead theme.
So what inspired you to do the siren part?
One of my good friends, she's always kind of likened me to a siren. And I didn't really take it too seriously because I sing a lot, right? I still sing and stuff like that. And when I started VTubing, or when I started being a PNG tuber, when I was my panda self, or another person that I met because of it, they're just like, you should maybe change to a siren because that kind of fits you a little bit more, I think. And this was after I started working with a certain company to do a live 2D model. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's do that. That way it definitely like appeals to more people. As well as I feel like it kind of fits me more than my panda self. My panda self felt like when I was a kid and we were doing the podcast and everything, And now that like I'm an older adult, I was just like, no, I need to rebrand as something that feels more like my current self. And so we did the siren.
So how long did it take for the character concept to get drawn up and then the rigging?
Okay, so the rigging is kind of hard to tell because when I was doing the concept art for the design, I was talking to my friend Inky, and that took about 2 weeks solid, but it was in calls with her for like hours on end, watching her draw, coming up with different design ideas, changing this thing, changing that thing. And before I got into a call with Inky, I was in a call with a different friend, Percy. Now, me and him were kind of like hashing out different ideas there too. So I went from my friend Percy, who helped me really kind of solidify what I was actually looking for, and then Inky, who did my reference sheet and came up with my current design.
Definitely took quite a while working process to get it going, and then
Yeah. Oh, but you asked rigging. Okay, so that's why I say like I don't really know about the rigging because I was told that the artist who was doing my model, or the artist studio that was doing my model, that they had it by like May or June 2023. Yeah, 2023 is when I was told that they had it, and it was finished in like October. And then he's the person who was in charge of the company that I was a part of. He told me that the rigger was working on it. So I was under the assumption that since October he had my model, and then I found out that he actually didn't have it until 2 weeks from debut. Last year would have been end of May, so he didn't actually get my model file because he wasn't going to be my original rigger. But I was under the impression that he was because I was told he was.
oh wow!
So it's kind of like I don't really know other than like what my rigger told me, which was 2 weeks before debut, which was end of May last year. So it's anyone's guess, kind of.
I'm assuming this is prelude to a later discussion on this interview. Yep, that's right. That's what I was thinking. I was starting to see the telltale signs starting to show up there.
I mean, like it was the whole me currently started because of Virtux, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of where I came from is involved in that. Mm-hmm. Because when I first started streaming, like I said, December 2022, and then the CEO of Virtux messaged me like February of 2023, asked me to join the company, and then I joined the company, and then that's pretty much where I was all last year until this, until December when everything kind of, went kaputs.
And that's a wild story there.
Yeah. There's a lot behind that.
Yeah, I was going through all those documents. I was like, wow, this is scary.
Yeah. In the moment of writing everything out, I definitely kind of have to feel like after, a couple months passed and then rereading it, and I was like, oh, I left out so much. But it's too late to kind of go back and add anything now at this point. You know what I mean?
Did you initially start on Twitch, or have you been on YouTube as well, or what kind of platforms are you on?
So I am on Twitch, and I do have YouTube, but the YouTube came, I want to say, I mean, I've had my VODs channel on YouTube, but that's not super active in comparison to my ASMR, where I've been putting VODs and as well as, like shortened VODs and full-on videos onto my YouTube, but I pretty much started off on Twitch. I didn't really have any plans to do much with YouTube other than like post my VODs. That way I had a record just for nostalgia's sake. Mm-hmm. But then I started doing ASMR, and everybody's like, oh, you should like have your own ASMR channel for your ASMR stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I wouldn't want that mixed in with my gaming VODs, right? Because those are two completely different things.
What sort of content do you create? I know you've already mentioned ASMR, and you mentioned gaming. So what kind of, take me kind of through what you usually plan to do on weekly basis or monthly basis for type of content?
So I split my week in half. So Monday, Tuesday, I do ASMR, and I do it live on Twitch. And I do reading. So at the end of every stream, I usually will read a chapter of a book. Right now, I'm in towards the tail end of Pride and Prejudice, and I have 3 or 4 books that have been recommended to me that are within free domain for me to read. So that way I can continue doing like the bedtime story before I sign off for the night. And then at the end of the week, so Friday, Saturday, I do different kinds of games. I play. Right now, I've been doing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, getting up to date on the patch, right? Because I'm so far behind on that. But I started pretty late in comparison to when the game came out. So I do Final Fantasy. I play Wuthering Waves. I play Marvel Rivals. I like doing comfy, cozy games, especially games with a lot of story. I like games with a lot of story. I also play, what's that one game? Like shooter games, like a Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain 2. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty much down to play anything. It just depends on if I have a collaboration with other friends or if I'm doing something by myself. And if it's by myself, I kind of I'll pick the day of. I usually try and do a schedule, but sometimes it's not that easy when I'm just like, I have one of these 4 things that I can get into. I'll just pick the day of. So we'll see what chat is feeling and then kind of go from there.
What is your biggest joy in content creation, and what is your biggest frustration in content creation?
The frustration mostly is, I want to start with the hardest one, right? The hardest one is always the one that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, like thinking of something to do. So my biggest frustration, I would have to say, it's my schedule, because I feel like more people are awake when I'm like working on something. So it's hard for me to like if somebody messaged me right now just like, hey, let's play a game. I can't. I'm working on something. I'm making content off stream. And I feel like it's kind of like a scheduling thing, because I feel like when it comes to my content, I'm very particular about everything being a certain way, especially if it's content that I'm not doing live on stream. And it takes time to get those things in the way. Is like, it's not perfect, but it's perfect in my eyes, right? So finding time to do those things with my friends, I have to like schedule them. To play a game with my friends, I have to like schedule it, which is so frustrating because I want to be able to just be like, yeah, let's just play a game right now. But I can't, because I'm like, oh no, I have to finish this recording. I have to edit this thing. I have to finish writing this script. I have to fix this, whatever, talk to this artist or whatever it is that I have to do. And then I can go just play that game. But by then, everybody's asleep because it's too late at night. Or I'm asleep and getting ready to go to lay down for bed because everybody's like, oh, it's Saturday. It's 10 p.m. I'm waking, or 10 a.m. I'm waking up. I'm just like, I'm laying down. I'm going to bed. Good night.
That, I think you have pointed out something that a lot of content creators do not think about when that comes with the frustration part. Because yes, any free time that you want to do with friends or whatever, you have to schedule it. And for those that aren't in content creation, they sometimes just don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look at you funny, then like, well, why do you need to schedule time to do something with us?
I mean, because it's like the way that I put it towards, I feel like my families, they understand it now, because they're just like, okay, we see that you're like, this is work for you, right? So like when you're awake, if you're not streaming, you're working on other things. And like if we want to go do something with you, we kind of have to like plan it out a little bit, because there's only so much time in a single day. And if I'm recording something, it's not a quick 5-10 minutes and I'm done. It's 2 or 3 hours, because I have to record it, listen to it. If I don't like it, change something, fix something, adjust something, whatever. And I have to do it again and again until I'm just like, okay, now it's good. This is good now. So now I have to edit it, add the effects, clean it up, get rid of background noise, whatever. Now that I have the recording, now I have to fix it. You know what I mean? After I fixed it 90 times, I have to fix it to be the final mastering of it for any audio. Because if it's live, it's live. It's different. There's, nothing you can really do about that. One of my friends, she wants to have a tea party because one of my viewers actually gave me a really cute froggy tea set with little tadpole cups, and I showed her
Oh,
a
that's
picture. I'm just like,
cool.
right, it's so freaking cute. And so like I told her, I was like, we need to have a tea party because I have this little tea set, and then we're gonna have like little cookies and cucumber set, whatever, right? Just a tea party, right?
Hmm.
Just for funsies. Um, but we have to plan it because she's working full time, and like on the weekends she has stuff going on, and then like the weekends is when I'm streaming. So it's kind of like, in a way, I have to kind of like plan to take a day off from streaming to go do this tea party with her. So I don't be like, okay, well, I have to go home now because I have to start streaming and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Like that's when people normally are wanting to go out to go do things.
Yep.
Um, so that's my biggest frustration, is just not being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. I do have to plan it, and I have to plan things down to like the minute in some cases. That's my biggest frustration. But my biggest, what was it that you said? Like my favorite thing?
Your biggest joy. What
My biggest
motivates
joy.
you?
Honestly, it's gonna sound so corny. My community, they've been so supportive of me and my channel and the things I want to do. Even if it's something that I've never done before, they're so supportive. They're just like, yeah, we'll try it out. We'll see how we like it. It feels less of like just my channel, and it feels like our channel, because there's a lot of things that, like, ideas that I have, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, I didn't really like that. Let's not do that again. Just like, yeah, I didn't really like it either. So it kind of feels like, it does feel like a community.
Hmm.
And I feel like I'm small enough that I could still have chat engagement to that extent where they can have a say about what we do, what we play, what we watch. Because I've seen it happen to a lot of other people who get really, really big. Their community feels very disjointed from what they're doing to what the community is saying they kind of want, right?
Hmm.
But at some point, eventually, I feel like the bigger you grow, that's just what's going to happen. You're not
Yeah.
going to be able to have that personal, and as long as I can still have that, I'm going to take as much as I can.
100%.
And yeah,
Then that's the one good thing. You see yourself getting bigger. You're getting a bigger audience. The downside is it's so much harder with chat scrolling or to get everybody's
yeah,
opinion. And
hmm
I see the pros and cons on that, but I know every creator, except for I think only one I've ever interviewed, was a little different. Everybody desires to grow their community and to get bigger and become successful where
yeah.
they don't have to work a day job.
Yeah, yeah. That is kind of the dream, I feel like, with a lot of different with a lot of VTubers, or just any content creator, regardless if it's YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Eventually they don't want to work for someone else. They want to work for themselves and have other people work for them. You know what I mean? Like I recently found, well, not really found, I've known them for a while. I recently made a deal with one of my friends who's going to help me be a video editor. He's going to do shorts for me. I have another friend who is my current manager. And so I talked to him about my content. He helps me with my video edits and my audio edits and stuff like that. And we meet about once a week to talk about what we're going to do with my channel, right? Because it's like it gets to a point where I'm just like, there's so much that has to be done. I cannot do it by myself. I need people
Exactly.
to help me do these things.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
And even now, like I'm looking at it on this side, some days I feel overwhelmed trying to get
Yeah.
everything done. So I can
Mhm.
definitely understand that. I mean, the hardest part is editing. It's
Oh my God.
and
I
people don't
cannot.
understand how much editing you have to do and go back over it repeatedly. And then
Over.
even then you may find something after you've went through it 4 or 5 times that you didn't catch the first time and you're like, oh no.
Yeah. hmm Especially, so I cannot edit a video to save my life. That's why I have other people that are going to do it for me, because I've tried using DaVinci. I've tried using DaVinci confuses the freak out of me. I just cannot with DaVinci. But I've tried using Canva because sometimes when I make my thumbnails and I just need a really, really quick one, I'll just go to Canva.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried using their program to edit videos, and it's even then, Canva's so easy to use, and I'm just like, what do I do? How do I do this? So like my raid video that I have,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of my week, I instead of doing like a thank you thing at the end of every night, I do at the end of every week, and I have a whole video, and I show the person, everybody's name that rated into me from the whole week before that I was streaming.
Mm-hmm.
That way, they still get the recognition of me saying thank you on top of when they actually rated me. I like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so editing that just for myself took me 3 days. And
Oh
it's 30
no.
seconds. It's 30 seconds. It's literally 30 seconds. And I'm like,
I've had those moments with it, and it's like, you just go back through it, and you're not quite happy, and that's the things I don't think sometimes like viewers understand that part, since they're not kind of quite in that content creation world. Is we may have 20 takes on something
of one thing.
and and for like 30 seconds, but there could be some how you say a word, how you pronounce somebody's name, or just a sound quality issue. There's so many things, and then sometimes you have to reshoot the whole thing.
Got it. I think I reshot the same. It was only like 2 minutes long, and I knew I wasn't going to use the whole 2 minutes. I knew it was going to be shortened from that, but it still took me just to do those 2 minutes at least 5 or 6 different tries. Because I was like, oh, I'm not using the right color kimono, because my robe chat can change the color of it. And I recorded it right after streaming, and I didn't close the video thing to change the robe color. And I was like, you know what? I'll just leave it. At that point, I was just like, it's fine, whatever. It's 30 seconds. It's okay. But it's just like begrudgingly, because I want to fix it. I want to change it. But I know if I do, I'm going to take forever again just to get what I already have. And what I have is cute. It's fine. I have to learn to be okay with not perfection.
But we are also our worst enemies, because we try to be as good as we can for the viewers, and sometimes we're like, man, I could have done better here. And then you're trying to sit there and do it, and maybe the original piece you did was just good enough.
It's good enough. Yeah.
And we're our worst critics, I think.
I am. I'm so bad. I'm so hypercritical of everything I do. No matter what it is, I'm just like, should I have said that?
So what is your biggest hurdle in content creation?
It takes a lot for me to not look at my numbers. I know, super, super taboo. Everybody's like, don't look at the numbers. I'm just like, but the numbers help me see where I am right now. It tells me that what I'm doing is working, whatever it is, right? If I'm doing ASMR, if I'm doing a game, if I'm doing just chatting, there's X amount of people that like whatever it is that I'm doing right now, that they like that. So then I make a mental note. I got to do this again. And I got to try and not really recreate that, but keep in mind what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what topics we're talking about that chat is engaging with. And I think that's my biggest thing is sometimes I look at the numbers and then I get excited in my own head that I forget to make those mental notes of chat seems to like this. My community seems to like this. The new people that are coming in seem to like this. So then I have to go back and watch my VOD and be like, what did we do? So I guess it's kind of like, I see the numbers, I get excited because I'm just like, oh, I'm doing really good. They like what I'm doing. Let's keep doing this. What did I do?
Or you get the roller coaster ride where it's like you got this hype where it's like you're just going down really fast. You've got all these viewers at one time, and then the next day it's like going up, and you're like,
and then down.
What happened? Yeah. And that is the worst thing a content creator to do. I've had to even tell my business partner, don't look at the numbers. It'll drive you insane.
It will. But like, I did it for a week, not looked at the numbers, and that drove me even more insane because I felt like I couldn't tell if I was doing well or not. And that's my tell, is if I see not just that chat is moving, but how many different voices there are that keep the chat moving, right? Because you
Mhm.
have the people that come in all the time and they're very chatty and I love that, right? You love your regulars. But the new voices, they add a little extra spice to what you're doing, like a good soup, right? You
Mhm.
want to, sometimes you add too many vegetables and you ruin the broth. But
Right.
sometimes you have just the right amount of vegetables and the seasoning and everything, and it's so good. But then you forget what the recipe was. And you're like, I got to redo that. So I have to do it again to have that really good soup." And that's kind of what content creation is, for me, but definitely is when the numbers aren't numbering, just getting over it.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, is just being like, you know what? The people that are here are enjoying it. Let's just continue to enjoy it together.
And
So
and I think that is one of the toughest things in content creation for
it
everybody.
is. It
I
is.
remember one streamer, I was watching her, and somebody said, "Holy crap! Did you see how many people are watching you?" And her first response
Mm.
was, "I'm not looking at my numbers. Seeing those numbers
Mhm.
could terrify me."
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that. I kind of felt that because I remember the first time I had over 120 show up on YouTube, and
Mm.
I'm like, "Oh, don't don't
Don't
make
let it. Don't
yourself
look
look
at
like a
it.
horse's ass. Don't look.
Yeah.
Don't."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
It's
was a
hard.
hard thing. So that's why when I stream, I just
Mhm.
hide all that now. I'm like, yep, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go move this over here.
Yeah, there's when I'm doing my ASMR, I don't look at the numbers, but when I'm doing something that I've not done before, like when I did my first couple art streams, right? I'm so
Mm-hmm.
new with doing art. It was kind of a thing because I want to learn how to be better at it, and the best way to do that is to actually practice.
Mm-hmm.
But with my timing, with my schedule, the best time to do that is just when I'm streaming because I'm already setting that time aside out of my day to do something. And if that something is to do art, just to draw something, even if I'm just doing doodles, that's good practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did it often enough that I'm okay. I can do certain things fairly well, but if you want me to do like a whole scene behind me, hell no. That ain't gonna happen. I could draw you that orange, that one orange. That's
Well,
easy. I got that.
I don't think I could even draw a straight line. So
That's hard.
you got me beat.
That's really hard.
So what is your future goals for your channels on YouTube and for your streaming content this year?
So we already kind of have a couple things in the works for my streaming, right? We did a big event in March. Because of the whole thing with the company, there was a lot of things that I didn't get that I was supposed to get.
Mm-hmm.
So chat helped me raise the funds to get those things. So we already have the transition, we're getting new sub badges, we're gonna have a new I call it an intermission scene, which is the starting soon BRB ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting a new art piece for that, which will be animated, as well as chatting, gaming scene, a new outfit. It's just going to be, I've already showed this on stream, so it's not like it's spoiling anything. Just going to be a really cute off shoulder sweater with a braid, and I'm going to have glasses, my own custom glasses for myself. Um, which, that all costs money to be not just drawn up, but also rigged.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm getting all that for this year with my Twitch channel. We last December I did one of those like or technically January, I did one of those like New Year's things where you type out like if my goals for the end of 2025 should be this, and then you post or like you schedule the tweet to go out, a whole year later and be like, okay, well, here's the goals that you were going for. Did you do it? One of my goals was to have 5,000 followers by the end of this year. We've already passed that. So I had to change my goal. And I was like, you know what? Let's double it. Let's see how close we can get to 10,000 by the end of this year. So I've already reached partner, which was another one of my goals. So we got Twitch partner, we got the 10,000 new goal. We got the next thing that I want to do is to get Partner Plus, which is you have to have at least 300 subs for 3 concurrent months to
Mhm.
get Partner Plus. I've kind of been floating around 100, so I'm close. And I would like to get that, but if it doesn't happen, I mean, I'm not going to cry about it. It's because I've already reached 2 of my 3 goals.
Huge congratulations to you, by the way. That is a hell of a milestone.
It happened so fast. And like, I didn't do any special event, like, not to toot my own horn. I didn't do like a push for partner. I didn't do any special streams or ask for anything in particular. I just streamed, did my own thing, and kind of like, even when I applied, the only 2 people who I told was Inky, who's like, she's one of my really, really good friends. I would even say probably one of like my best friends, and my manager. I told no one else.
So you're
And
not going
then-
to do anything crazy like Pipkin Pippa did, where she told her chat on YouTube at 100,000 subscribers, she'd show a picture of her foot, which that was forever a horrible legacy.
No, because the thing is like, if I promise to do something like that and then it happens, but it's something I really don't want to do, I get like frustrated because I don't want to do it, but I said I'd do it, but I don't want to do it. So like, I would rather do something that like chat finds funny, that we want to do together, but also I'm actually still comfortable with doing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have these radical goals, and well, I laughed.
Yeah.
She made it a whole stream of showing everybody's feet from her viewers. I was like, oh god, this is awful. Why would you do that? Or
I don't want to see anybody's grippers. Grippers, nah. Keep those puppies in your socks. I don't care.
Or watching her torment herself eating cat food live on stream.
I mean, I hope that it was canned cat food, because
it was all the above. She still has that if you ever want to check that out. That was my business partner's first exposure to VTubing, and she goes,
oh my god,
what the hell is going on? I said,
yeah.
I said, you don't want to know. Because
Pretty much.
I just had finished, we had just finished our gardening stream because we were talking about it, and instantly she got recommended. I said, what the hell is she doing? So I clicked that, and my business partner's still sitting here, and she goes, what is this? I said, this is VTubing, but she's eating cat food. I'm like, okay.
Oh man.
And it was part of one of those goals, because you hit so many super chats or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do something that embarrassing.
There's levels of extreme that people will do, and they're comfortable doing them, right? If they were, my mentality that I have to reason with myself like this is, if they're willing to do it, even if I'm not, but they were willing to do it, then that's why it was a goal, because they were able to do it. They looked it up. It's not going to hurt them, whatever. Will I do that? No, I can't even stand the smell of cat food. Why would I want to put that in my mouth? Like, smelling it makes me literally gag. Why would I want to put that in my mouth?
Amen to that. I was like, oh man. So I thought you get a good laugh on that one, because I was just like, yeah. I was like, oh man, no, I'm not. I can't believe content creators do those type of goals. But hey, if you're going to be radical like that, more power to you.
I mean, yeah. If they're able to do it, right? Because like, the thing with content creation also is you have to go outside the box. You have to do something super crazy for people to pay attention to you. But also, if it's so far against your own like brand, then in a way it's kind of hurting you, right?
Amen.
So like, because this person they ate cat food, it kind of makes you think that like they do silly crazy things like that kind of on a consistent basis, and that's kind of the community that they have, because that's the personality that they have. I feel like if I started doing that, everybody's going to be like, are you doing this to kind of like clout chase because so and so did this? And I'm just be like, no, but the answer is literally yes. Right?
Which
so
is
kind of like
the danger with content creation too, as we've seen with a lot of the streamers that go even overseas for clout to cause chaos, which I'm 100% against. And I'm just like, I feel like it's be true to yourself. That's the one thing I've always said with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not true to yourself, then what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm like, right now, I'm at a point where I could still get funny ideas from my chat for things that they think would be funny. But at the same time, the kind of people that I'm taking those suggestions from, they kind of know who I am. Mm-hmm. They know the kind of content that I create. And they're just like, this would be funny. I would like to see you do this. Because it's not that far from what you kind of already would do. I'm just like, yeah, I would do that. That's not a bad idea. I'll put that on the list or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But the funny thing is, last year for my birthday, I did a week-long thing, and I had chat be able to choose between making me eat a spicy candy, like a really spicy candy that I could not actually handle, or a piece of my favorite candy. So every person who subscribed or gave me bits or gave me, they did like a Ko-Fi donation. Mm-hmm. They got to pick spicy candy or my favorite. Everybody but like 2 people made me eat my favorite candy. And I was just like, yay.
That is surprising. Especially like to see some of them say, oh, well, we want to see you eat that one chip challenge. What?
I could not.
Like, no way.
I physically could not.
I couldn't either.
One of my community members gave me the Nitro Gummy Bear because we did my event in March. He sent that to me, and he was like, if you can reach your goal and your like your extra goals, I want you to eat that. I'm just like, I don't think I could do the whole thing. And one of my other mods messaged me. They're just like, you should not eat the whole thing because people have actually, who can't do spicy foods, they've had respiratory issues because of that. Mm-hmm. So eat maybe like a small piece of it and try that. And I did. I ate a small piece of that. And the only thing that happened was my tummy got a little upset because it was just like really, really spicy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm glad that my mod that sent it to me to eat the whole thing, and then a completely different mod messaged me and they're just like, don't eat the whole thing. And here's why.
They were a lifesaver on that one.
They were, yeah, but I kind of also feel like that's kind of how my community is. But I've nurtured that type of community where they're supportive of each other, we watch out for each other. And like if they know something is going to not be okay, mm-hmm. they'll say it. They'll tell me, or they'll talk to each other. And then, that's kind of the community that I have, it's really nice.
I think that's something that everybody should aspire for, is definitely having a community that really fits with the persona and the creator. It really is important. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, right? There's some people that are crazy chaotic and they have other members in their community who are crazy chaotic, but they fit that vibe, right? That's that person, that's that type of community. And that's not everybody, right? I have more of a comfy, like calmer audience. And that's kind of the person that I am. So it works for us, I
100% agree on that. We alluded a little bit on the foreshadowing events.
Yeah.
So you started in 2022.
Yes.
And then for a little bit, you were a PNG tuber, and then you got reached out by Virtux to join the corporation, the agency, whatever you want to call them at that point.
Technically, legally, they were never legally a company. They were considered a business. Mm-hmm. So they only technically had a business license. Like I can go down to the courthouse or wherever I need to go get a business license and just pay for it and have a business license and be like, I'm a business, right? That's basically what he did. A company is a whole other process entirely. So to call it a company is too kind.
Tell me a little bit of the process of how it all began, and then kind of your experiences that happen for the viewers. And then we'll just finish it off with, would you consider ever joining a business, agency, or company again? Or do you enjoy your indie VTuber better, and why or why not? So I'll kind of refresh that question a little bit. I know that was a lot, but
okay. Um, so like I said, I started VTubing as a PNG tuber at the end of 2022. It was like the first Saturday of December, and that was my like, I'm gonna start doing this. Why I chose December, I just did because I was like, I had everything, I was ready, I was excited, so I just did it. Um, so I started streaming in December, and then 2023, I want to say like maybe February, maybe March. It was really early still in me just streaming in general. I had a fairly decent audience. I was between like 15 and 30 people in my audience, right, as a PNG tuber.
Mhm.
And so I was doing a collab with, it was myself, it was the CEO, Ray, and I'll just keep using his name because it's easier than saying that person. So it was me, Ray, and Shiro, and I think there was another person, one of Shiro's friends, who was also part of Virtux. Shiro was not the friend. One of his friends, oh gosh, I can't remember his name. That's the first time I met Ray. And so we were just doing our collab, we were having fun, whatever. And then at the end of the collab, I got a DM from Ray saying, hey, after the stream, can I get you into a call? I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh no, something happened like during the collab that he just didn't really like or whatever. That's kind of what my mentality was. And then me, him, and Shiro got into a call, the three of us. And he goes, I'm starting a company. I'm going to call it Virtux. And I want you two to be part of the very first wave. And that's when I joined Virtux. He sent me the contract. I looked it over. I had a friend's husband who was a lawyer look it over. And he's like, it's not worded the best, but there's really no downfall for you here. So if you want to sign it, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, like, it's up to you, right? And so it's just like, okay, well, I mean, if it doesn't have any immediately red flags other than the wording is weird, then sure, I'll do it. So I went ahead and I signed the contract, and that's when I was officially part of Virtux. So we originally were supposed to debut in October. So I was sitting in calls with my friend Inky and Percy, doing my reference sheet, coming up with the ideas, and then Ray the entire time was sending me messages to try and find an artist. And he sent me individual artists, he sent me studios, he sent me references, all kinds of different things, because that's when I told him I wanted to rebrand from my panda into a siren. I was already kind of thinking about it before he messaged me, but afterwards, when he was just like, yeah, we'll pay for everything and then you just pay us back. And I was like, okay, so basically you'll be like my credit card. And then I'll just pay the credit card back, right? Just no interest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just whatever you put into me is what I have to give back to you. And we agreed on a certain percentage of my my Twitch payout every month that I would give him back. And my percentage was 30. Mine was pretty high compared to everybody else's, from what I remember, if not about equal to a couple of others people. And so because nothing was done yet, I didn't have to pay anything yet, right? Because I can't pay back something when nothing was actually done yet. So until I actually had everything, that's when I had to start making the payments. But anyways, so I'm in wave one. He creates a Discord with everybody in there, and things were perfectly fine when they first started, right? We had a couple different tangible things actually happen, like our partnership with Gamer Subs. One of our managers was already part of Gamer Subs. I think he like works there, or he's a partner, something like that. I don't remember specifically how he has that connection with Gamer Subs, but that's how we got our partnerships. And that's how I still have mine. I kept mine because of my good standing with the company already. But originally it started because of Virtux.
Mm-hmm.
So like we saw partnerships like that actually happening, and we're just like, okay, so they're kind of trustworthy because they're actually doing things. We have really big name artists that are working with some of the other streamers that were going to be part of the company, that were going to be working for them or with them for their next model, for their scenes, whatever, like big names out there, right? And I was like, that's really exciting. But because I went from PNG a couple months to suddenly I was going to have a 2D, I didn't know any artists, I didn't know anybody, I didn't know pricing, I didn't know how any of it worked, right? And so when he was just sending me people, sending me references, I was just like, I mean, yeah, sure, okay, that person, or this one, like whatever, sure. I just turned into yes, because I didn't know, right? And I was not supposed to get just a model. I was supposed to get model, scenes, emotes, transition, and management. We didn't really get management, not until the end of last year. That's kind of when we started getting management. And that's when things started really coming to light of what was going on, because his small promises of, yeah, we can get that artist. I've already been contacting them for so-and-so, but they can also do yours because they still have slots available to do whatever. To now we're getting partnerships with really big companies like VShojo. And I was like, how is this, how does that happen? How do you know someone who works at VShojo? Why would you not just work for them? Why would you start your own company? And like a lot of things that he was saying just didn't really add up. But the thing that he was really doing, and I know everybody said this, is he was kicking people out of the company who were talking or being too loud about not liking what was going on in Virtux. He was kicking them out. And so to prevent that from happening, we just stopped talking to each other, or we would keep a lot of things that he told us in secret, quote unquote, to prevent us from losing those chances that we believed were going to happen, right? Because he made good with certain promises so that the bigger ones seemed more realistic. And I think that was the biggest downfall, is he made really big promises for things that were never going to happen, like at all. So it wasn't until March when we debuted, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, the whole entire time for almost 5 months, I thought my rigger had my model. And I was like, why is it taking so long? Why do I not have my model? Like everybody else at this point that were in my wave had their model. They were able to take pictures. Ray had my model, but I still didn't have it. And I was like, why do I not have my model? Like, why? You have it, you're playing with it, you're sending me screenshots of it, but why can't I have it? Why can't I use it? Like, I got a whole new computer, I got my second monitor, I bought myself my iPhone for the tracking, which was something, again, that he said he was going to pay me back for, because it was something that he said he was going to give me because he already had it. And all I had to do was ship it to me. And he shipped it 5 times. He never did. He never had it. So it was just like all these things that he said he was going to give me or pay me back for were things that I ended up just purchasing myself, right? My current scene, paid for it myself. My rigging, I'm still paying for it because it was supposed to be paid for, but I'm still paying for it. I pay my rigger because he never got fully paid for it. So I still have to pay him, obviously. Second monitor, stream deck, phone, all those things, right? Things that he said he was going to pay for, and they never did. At the end of May is when we debuted, right? My rigger messaged me 2 days before it saying, your rigging is done. Well, it's planned to do a test. I'm just like, I can do a test right now, right? Like, I have the things that I need to do it. Let's do it right now. I'm angry because this whole entire time, Ray had me believing that the rigger had it, just wasn't working on it. And so I'm in a call with the rigger, and I'm trying not to be angry. And I'm trying not to be angry at him, not knowing that he just got it 2 weeks before. Because I'm still under the assumption that he had it for months. And it wasn't until December that I was talking to the rigger. And I was like, and I'm so sorry, because I read his document before I wrote my own. I'm just like, I thought you had my model and everything for 5 months before this point. So I actually was so angry at you for a long time because of that. And I'm just like, why is it that I'm the only one that doesn't have anything while everybody else is getting everything, right? They have their scenes, they have their whatever, they have, like, I had really no say about the scenes that I got. I didn't have any say about my transition. He just got things that he thought would look cute. And I'm just like, but they won't work color-wise with what I have with my model. Like, it was brown. They were brown. And there's nothing wrong with brown. Like, brown's a really pretty color in certain ways.
Right.
But with my model, imagine just a brown background behind me. It would not look great, right? Visually, it would not look appealing to the eye. So he gave me those, and I was just like, Okay. Okay. So then I had about 1 day to fix my parameters to be what I needed them to be for my own model, and then debut hit. Debut hit, and it was basically literally hit the ground running because I had no idea what I was doing. I had to fix my parameters about 9 or 10 times after that just to make them as smooth as they are right now, right? And even my rigger was just like, yeah, I want to go through and redo your rigging because it was such a rushed order thing. Um, that like there was a lot of things that he was just like, I don't think I even did justice to what I know I could do. And I was like, yeah, we can do that another time, right? Like I'm not in a huge rush to do it, but it's something that me and him have been talking about it, and it is something that we're gonna eventually work out.
Hmm.
Um, but start streaming, and every month at that point, I have to basically pay back the credit card, right? I have to give him 40% of my Twitch payout. Only Twitch. That was my agreement. I was like, so only Twitch. So if I do like Patreon or like YouTube, if I get monetized or whatever, that's all just my own thing. And he goes, yeah, that's your own thing. It's only going to be Twitch because that's what was on the contract. And then I started doing Patreon, and I started doing stuff on my YouTube, and I started doing things on like Ko-Fi, doing voice packs and stuff like that in Ko-Fi where people can pay for me to do certain voice lines or scripts or stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he started wanting money from that. Or he would ask me for extra money on top of what I already paid him. He goes, yeah, I'm a little short for whatever reason. Can you give me extra? And I'm just like, you're my CEO. If I say no at this point, like either I'm going to look like an asshole or I'm going to be even more not getting the things that I want to get, not getting the art pieces that I want to get or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I would just say yes, because again, he got us to a point where we weren't really talking to each other and we weren't aware of what he was telling one person about other people. Because there were things that he told me about the other people in the company that like eventually we all told each other everything, right? But like I'm not going to repeat it because it was really fucked up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like it kept me from wanting to talk to them. I'm just like, oh, I didn't know, so and so was like that. Okay, so I'm just not going to talk to them because they're going to do that to me, and I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm not going to talk to them, and we're going to keep it business casual. Turns out everything that they told me was a lie. Right.
That just sounds like a ball of misery that everybody would be afraid to talk to each other because everybody's got this misconception that, oh, well, this person's hard to work with or they're an a-hole or
Mm-hmm.
and that's definitely not how you want to run a business.
Yeah, and there were certain people that he kicked out of the company because they spoke up or they put their foot down about certain things that he was trying to like implement with that we were supposed to do or not to do. And he kicked them out. And he came up with some lie about why we shouldn't talk to them, that they were saying shit about each other. It's one thing if like people are venting their frustrations to each other about other people, like that's fine. It's in my opinion, it's fine to vent frustrations about other people to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to make up lies about other people because you're frustrated. And that's kind of what he did, is he was frustrated at those people that he kicked out for whatever reason, right? We don't talk to him, so obviously we have no idea what those were. But he made up lies about what they said, what they did, how they viewed us. And then he told us that, saying, oh, don't talk to so-and-so or this person anymore because they said XYZ about you. In some cases, yes, they did. And in other cases, no, they didn't. They never said anything close to that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In my case, he said that certain people said racial slurs about some of us. That never happened, right? That never happened because they've all kind of come out and said things. I'm not going to be specific as to who said what, or supposedly. But anyways, again, we all saw that he was kicking people out of the company because supposedly they said these things. We slowly just were like, okay, well, we can't talk about stuff that he told us in private because he told us in private, so we can't really like talk about it with other people, even those among in our own company. But I was kind of picking up on things starting in July, because in July there's a big anime convention in Los Angeles called Anime Expo, and I've been a part of the staff there for over 10 years. And so last year when he said that we were going to have a booth there and everything, he told me where we were going to be, what time we were going to have like meet and greets and stuff like that. And so people actually took days off so they can make their scheduled meet and greet. We didn't have a table. We never even applied to get a table. The whole thing was a big fat lie. Right. So I go down to the convention center. So I'm already there, right? Because I'm working the convention. So I'm at the convention center. I go down to what table specifically he told us we were going to be at. And I have friends who work in the expo hall where like all the shops and stuff like that are. And I asked them, where's this booth? And they're looking through their system. There's no booth with that. What about this person's name? It might be under this person's name. No, there's nothing like that here. Okay, well, he told me a specific number, table. Let me go through the DMs and try and find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I go to the table. It's a clothing store. It's like a clothing booth, right? And I'm just like, why lie? Like, it's you already know I'm going to be there. You know I'm going to go check. Why would you just lie? Why would you lie about that? And so when I came back from the convention, I told the others, I told everybody, I'm just like, we didn't have a table. The table that he said we were going to have wasn't there. So we confronted him, all 5 of us, right? Because it was 5 of us in my wave plus him would have been 6, but all 5 of us, I told them all what happened. And they're just like, we need answers, right? Because like you've been telling us 2 of the people that were going to be, they were supposed to work, they took the day off, which means they didn't get paid for that day because you told us we were going to have meet and greets at specific times. So now you're basically like, you took money out of those people's pockets. Like, you gotta do something because that's not cool, right? And so we get him into a call and he tells us this huge a huge lie about it. And that's when I kind of like started picking up that he's just a liar. So I kind of stopped trusting anything he said. I stopped going to him because he was supposed to get like 4 or 5 different commissions for me because he promised my community more than once that if they did certain things, if we reached certain goals by the end of that specific stream, that he was going to pay for certain art for me to be done. And when I messaged him, just like, hey, remember you told my community that if we reached whatever 1,000 viewers or 1,000 followers, then you would pay for this art piece. So here's the artist, here's their price. Just let me know when you do the commission, right? And it was going to be out of his own pocket. And he said he was going to pay for it, that I didn't have to pay that back. And then that never happened. So not only was he lying to me, he was lying to my community. So he kept doing that over and over again. So eventually I just said, you know what? He's obviously not going to pay for anything because in my own mind, I kept telling myself, I'm the least favorite. I'm the one that they don't really care if I succeed. So I'm going to have to kind of like make this work on my own. I'm part of the company, but I'm not really part of the company. And that's kind of how I felt during the entire time. I felt like I was just there, that I was filler. No one cared what I did. No one cared if I succeeded or if I took time off. So I kind of just started doing my own thing in a way, you know? And so in December, when technically November is when everything started kind of coming out. And that was mostly because our acting manager, Kale, started discovering things, started finding even bigger lies behind the smaller ones. Then we all started talking, and pretty much everything's out there. Like, if you really want to know, like, the nitty-gritty of everything, there's ways to find it. It's a lot. It is a lot. Everybody has their own experience, but I kind of feel like I went in not knowing anything, being totally blind. And then after about 2 years, making a lot of friends, and they're just like, yeah, it doesn't take that long to do XYZ. So either he never commissioned the person or he's lying to you. And then I was reaching out to certain artists and I was just like, hey, did he ever commission you for this thing? Because he told me he did. And then he never did. Or he did, but then he never paid them. So then we had to pay them, which was a whole other thing. Trying to find all those people and be like, did this artist get paid? Oh, yeah. Then that artist did this thing for me. Okay, now I have to reach out to that one and be like, did you get paid for this thing? I was lucky that all my artists were paid for everything. because they take payment up front. They don't take, I'll pay you laters. So in that case, I was lucky, but because I didn't know anything, I feel like that really bit me in the butt because of that, right?
Right.
If I know what I know now, and he say the whole thing with Virtux never happened, and he tried to reach out to me right now, I probably would say no, because the math wouldn't math with what he gave me as far as the contract goes. So.
Yeah. He's running in a deficit basically before he even began with this business, and then couldn't even tell anybody the truth because who knows if it was just pathological lying at the time or too ashamed that they didn't have the finances to do it. It's hard to say what motivates people to do that.
I think if the way that he tried to go about doing it, he was expecting the first wave to basically pay for itself within a few months. And then he brought on wave 2 and 3, and they were supposed to pay for wave 2 was supposed to pay for wave 1, and wave 3 was supposed to pay for wave 2, and then he was already looking at wave 4, 5, and 6 that were supposed to pay for that's kind of how it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be the whole trickle down effect, right? So then eventually no one would be in debt and we would all just be making money at that point. But he viewed us all as just money to go into his pocket, because from one of the things that we found out is when we would send him money for the basically, like I said, paying back the credit card, right? When we send him the money that we had to pay him back for, sometimes he would take that money and buy himself things for his own channel instead of paying the artist that he said he was supposed to be paying. If you want art, everybody wants art of their model, right? Of doing different things, being funny little guys, whatever. Pay for that out of your own pocket, because he had a full-time job, right? So he could pay for it himself if he wanted to. But he never did. He used the money that we were giving him to pay for those things for his own channel. And so I'm like, so you're saying that when you were telling me you're paying my artists, you were not paying my artists? Granted, again, me specifically, everybody was already paid for because they don't take I'll pay you laters.
Right.
It's you pay me now, or at least half now, and then I'll give you the final product when you pay for the rest of it. Which I'm glad for, because I picked those people, not because of that, because I like their style. They just happened to do that. And I was like, that was lucky on my half. That was lucky on my half, because
I could just see that now. Several artists coming and say, "Hey, by the way, you know that scene? I never got paid." And
there was one particular artist who did that, just one. But they didn't do something for me specifically. They did something for all 6 of us, and they never were paid for it. So on the back end, it was taken care of between me and my manager. We handled that. For me personally, that was the only person that said anything. I reached out to all my artists, and I'm still on good standing with all of them. Like the person who did my current logo, they did my past one. And so when I reached out to them, they're like, yeah, no, I was paid. So here's your new one. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm still good standing with you. Okay.
So it was almost like you never really were part of a business or company. You were still just an indie with somebody just trying to tell you how to run your business. That's the visualization I have with this, is you really never even got a chance to have what an agency's supposed to be like, where they talk like Bisojo or Hololive or Niji Sanji. It was, we're on our own. This guy is telling everybody all these wild stories, but realistically, everybody's still just an indie VTuber at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the well, okay, I can't speak for everybody else, but at the end of the day, that's kind of how it felt for me specifically. I felt like he gave me all these things, and it kind of felt like that's why I call him my credit card, right? Because he paid for me to get started. But a lot of the bigger things I paid for myself. My phone, I paid for that. My monitor, I paid for that. My computer, I paid for that. The model, the art, he paid for that, right? But at the end of December, at the end of October, he actually sent me a thing saying that he realizes that he was kind of pushing me to the side and focusing on everybody else and just throwing more money into their thing, because he bought them new scenes, he bought them outfits, he bought them emotes. I paid for my own myself, right? Pretty much everything I paid for myself beyond the model, because the scenes he gave me didn't use. The emotes he gave me, I used those, but then eventually I went back to the artist and we made some edits and we got some more. So I paid for my emotes. I paid for my current scenes. I paid for, again, my peripherals and everything else. I paid for all that. So other than the model, which he paid for, it was like, yeah, I realized that like I didn't really get your opinion on the things that you actually wanted. I never paid you back for these things. So what I'm going to do is I owe you $800. I'm just going to say that that $800 that I owe you, closer to $9. It was like 870 something, but 800 is close enough. I'm going to put that towards the model cost. And then from what I paid him up to that point, he was like, that basically makes it zeros it out. So then you don't owe me anything for the model anymore. And I was just like, cool. So now, like, if I decided to leave, I could.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. But then the whole thing, everything came out the way that it was, with like, he actually had no money. He was ripping off other artists. He was ripping off all the other members of the company and making promises to them that he never was going to do. And the biggest one, like, okay, everybody in their own mind, right, is what happened to them is the biggest thing, right?
Right.
Financially, I came out better, right? Because I don't have to pay him back anymore. Emotionally, he hurt my Inky, because she was doing art and scenes and all kinds of different things for him, and then he never paid her. Almost $10,000 he was supposed to pay her, and she never got it. And like, I introduced her to him, right? So like having that, I mean, she doesn't blame me at all.
But still, that's, I
blame myself.
Well, and
that's $10,000.
And the thing about it, though, is how could you know? Yeah. I mean, you can't, and that's, and saying that amount of money. Yeah, I can't even fathom that. $10,000.
And I've commissioned her for some. She's done a couple of different art pieces for me, and each art piece I've commissioned for her from her, I paid myself.
Right.
Because when I started, like I said before, when I was trying to get him to pay for the commissions that he said he was going to pay for, then he never did. In my mind, I'm just like, he is not trustworthy to pay for the things that he said he's going to pay. I didn't know that he was not paying Inky. I was under the assumption for months that he did pay her. It wasn't until almost a year later that I found out that she was never paid. And I was just like, how much does he owe you? Like a couple hundred? No, we tallied it up. I made a whole document for her, and I'm just like, go ahead and just input everything here, and it'll tell you the price at the very bottom. And it was about $10,000 worth of stuff that he never paid. And that's like little things on top of really big pieces.
That in itself is a nightmare. Was there any end resolution on that part? Did she ever get that money at all, or still?
No. She never got the money. So when we all started talking to each other, right, he put out something on Discord, because we had our own Virtux Discord server with all the members, the managers, and him, right? And a couple artists that were like in-house artists, right? That's what Inky was. She was an in-house artist. So if we wanted something done, we can go to her and she would do it for us, right? And that's what everybody was doing, right? They were messaging her and be like, I want this art piece done. And so she would like work on the things as she could. But it's hard to work on art projects. It's hard to work on any project when you're not getting paid for them, So a lot of them didn't really go beyond just the sketch phases because of that. And everybody was kind of understanding. They're just like, oh, you didn't get paid for this yet? Okay, no, stop working on it. And like, once you get paid, then we'll kind of we'll pick it up and we'll continue from there. But But so in the server, he posted something because of what Kale and our other manager was talking about. They, the other manager wants to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to say their name. But Kale came out and said that they were one of our managers. So I can talk about what they did. They basically said that if you don't give us the books to take over for the payments to make sure that everybody's getting paid and that the accounts are being taken care of the way that they should be, basically to do the accounting, which is not what they were hired to do. But they were willing to do it because they wanted us as the talent of the agency to be successful. But we can't be successful when we don't know where we stand financially with the company or the company's financial stability as it was at that time. And that's when he basically told them that there was no money. He was actually like in debt and he was trying to take care of it on his own side, but he just didn't know what to do. He came up with a bunch of 1,000,002 different excuses of whatever it was, right? I don't even think I have the screenshots anymore, but when I saw that, and I saw that Kale and our other manager were saying, okay, well, because you didn't do the thing that you said we're going to do on the day that we said that you were going to, that you have to do this, otherwise we're going to leave, we're going to walk because the managers still haven't been paid. Like, we're going to leave. And then that's when I saw that and I was like, our two biggest supporters are going to leave. And like, we won't really have anyone to support us here, right? Because Ray has shown that he's not a supportive person at all. He's not going to be there for us. He's here for himself and that's it. But we've all signed a contract to stay here, right? And even though in my head, I knew I could leave too without a problem, but I didn't want to leave my friends.
Right.
Just hanging like that and not be able to do anything about it. So I was like, all right, let's get into a call. How about I'm going to jump into the Discord call in our personal server, right? I'm going to hop into the Discord call. If you guys want to join me, you're more than welcome to. And that's when a lot more started coming out. That's when we were talking to each other because we were able to, right? We had one person that stood up against him and showed us what was happening behind closed doors that gave us the opportunity to gather around each other and talk to each other about, oh, wait, that's what actually happened? No, Ray told me this. Oh, no, but Ray told me this. And then everyone's just like, no, Ray told me X, Y, Z, as opposed to what you knew as ABC, right? So like we were going back and forth with like, no, that's a lie. No, that actually happened, but it happened like this. Or I don't know who that artist is, or, oh, that artist was never paid for whatever. And that's how like we all just, that's when everything came out. And we're all just like, wait, your artist said that they weren't paid for your thing. Ray told me that they did pay for your thing. So that we're talking to our artists and be like, were you paid? And that's just when it kind of like exploded. And everybody was just like, no, Ray, we're going to go, we're leaving. Let's get as much as we can as evidence so that we can do a call out post. And we started typing our documents and doing screenshots and showing everything from the very start of everything to the very end, as much as we possibly could before we all just left. And then we left.
That was one hell of
we planned
scheme.
it. Like
I mean, from the start to the finish, and you have revealed a lot more that I was unaware of from a prior interview. The whole thing was just scummy.
It was
way more than just the surface level. And yeah, I remember all those documents. There was so many documents to comb through on that. Yeah. And the whole vibe I got was this was really never a business all along. It was someone's pet project and everybody else was pretty much out in Siberia.
I can never really pinpoint where the absolute downfall was, but I definitely feel like the minute he started looking at wave 2 and 3 before wave 1 was out is kind of where things took the biggest downfall, right? Because like I said, it started off with promises actually happening, right? I got my model from the artist I picked. I got my emotes from the artist I picked. I got my scenes from the artist I picked. Granted, I didn't really have a say how they looked, but I got the artist I wanted. Same with my logo. Got exactly what I wanted, what I liked. Even with my 2.0 logo, got that, right? But then it started like going downhill from there, specifically for me and my channel. He wanted me to start doing fancy stuff. I'm not opposed to it, right? I'm not opposed to it. However, the way that he wanted me to do it, the way he talked to me about it, made me feel not even like a person. It made me feel like the way that he was
Wow.
talking about me doing those things, that I was nothing more than just a big, sexy $sign to him. And I was like, but even if I did do content on the blue Twitch, right? That's my money, because you said that you were not going to take anything besides from the Twitch payouts, which is bits and subs and that stuff, right? And he goes, oh no, it's going to be any source that you get money off of by using your current model, because we own that model until you pay it off. And I'm like, but that's not what's on the contract. So, no.
He was already in breach of contract then and there.
He was in breach of contract because the wording on the contract was he was going to give us $1,000 a month to use for other assets and stuff like that, especially with MyWave.
Oh no!
So that's why my lawyer friend, or my friend's husband, who's a lawyer, when he read that, he was just like, yeah, there's no, like, this is more in benefit for you, because in this contract he says he's going to give each one of you in the first wave $1,000 per month for art and other things.
Oh no!
We didn't read it that way, but the legal jargon, that's what it said. And we're just like, so where's my money, Ray? Where's my money? Like,
where's the money, Lebowski?
Pretty much. Like, put you in a fucking carpet. Where's my money, bitch? You know what I mean? Like,
all I see is a lot of Stewie's going, where's my money? Where's my money?
Where's my money? Pretty much. Right?
Holy crap.
For some people, he actually owed money, right? Because again, he told me he was going to pay for certain things for me, and then he never did. I had to pay for those myself. Or one of my community members gave me the money to go purchase those things, right? But then there's other people that he took money from to go get things that he said he was going to go get them, and then they never got that thing, right? So it varies from person to person.
That just sounds like a pure nightmare, and he had
honestly
no financial responsibility from day one, and tried to to me it sounds like he tried to basically say, we're the next VShojo.
That's kind of what, like, it was, especially when he started saying that we were going to have a partnership with VShojo, because he knew who Gunrun is, and they were like besties, and he took inspiration from him or whatever. And I was like, okay, but you are not Gunrun, you are you, and you have your limits financially as a company, right? Excuse me.
Wow.
But I had a thought. Oh, one of the things that kind of really solidified in my mind how bad it was, and I didn't even think about it until like it happened, is when he gave me that paperwork, right, that said that he was going to wipe my debt because he realized that he wasn't giving me the attention or giving me the support that he was giving to the others, right? And they can disagree with that if they want to. Like, they can agree or disagree with that if they don't think that they got as much support. But at least from my point of view, it felt like I wasn't getting any support from him as a company. Not from them. They gave me tons of support. But from him specifically as the company, I don't feel like I got as much. So when he signed that paperwork and said he was going to wipe my debt, I almost quit VTubing, because I was like, I don't have to pay this anymore. So then I was so done with how I was feeling that I almost did quit as soon as I got that paperwork.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't. Because that, I think, ultimately, that individual would win for those that quit. Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons why I didn't, is because he didn't think that I would get partnership for another 2 or 3 years. He didn't think that I would be able to do all kinds of different. I found this out from other people, that he didn't think that I would make partner. He didn't think I had the makings to have Twitch partner or even get monetized on YouTube. I'm already Twitch partner. I'm coming for you, YouTube monetization. I'm working on it.
You'll get there. You'll get there. I
it'll,
believe in that.
it'll happen.
You know, this is what I told another individual is 2025 is your year to hit the goals and achieve what you sought to achieve. And definitely say the same on that. You know, sounds like 2025 is your year really starting to make headway, and you've already reached goals in your partner. I mean, you've made some great milestones. And to me, that is an inspirational story of something where somebody's, you know, you just started out, you joined a company, a business. I keep saying company, but
I mean, he was trying to pass it as a company, but
yeah,
legally he only had a business license.
But you have a business here, and you have all this internal drama and no support. So you're literally still just an indie VTuber with somebody telling you what to do, basically, at that point. And he sowed the seeds of chaos amongst everybody. And at the end, destroyed a lot of people's lives, destroyed any hope of a lot of people looking at the business that way. And then, you know, left a lot of people question where the hell they go from here.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it, you also sprung back. You've made some great strides this year, like you said. And that is something I think people should aspire, that even though there is dark times and situations, there is always a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yes, definitely. And it's the hardest thing, I think, to come back when you spent, like, I joined the company right in the beginning of 2023, right? We debuted 2024. So for over a year of not having anything, of continuing to make my content the way that I was, being a part of a company and not getting any support until debut. And then from debut, just feeling like I was nothing but, again, like a giant sexy dollar sign with no help, right? Whenever I asked for direction, I was giving the runaround. Oh, talk to so and so, see what they do. Go over here, pay for this thing that I ended up never using. All kinds of different things like that, and it just, like, it felt like I was just floating. That I had nowhere to really turn to. I mean, I had my friends and stuff like that, but there was only so much I could actually tell them because everything else was company matters, and I couldn't necessarily talk to them about that. And I was scared to talk to anybody in the company because I was like, oh, but he told me that they can't be trusted, or so and so goes and does, you know, their podcast and their stuff goes up on their channel, and like if I tell them anything about how I feel or whatever, it's going to go there, and I don't want my feelings on someone else's podcast, like, especially when it's told in secret, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what's told in a secret DM is, or what's told in a DM as a secret needs to stay there. As long as it's not, you know, illegal, causing anyone harm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Within reason, obviously.
But, you know, it's one of those things, is how can anybody know when you're supposed to trust this head of this company, and he's saying this and basically making everybody sound like they're the problem.
Yeah. That's kind of what it was feeling like. That he pitted us against each other in certain ways, or at least from my perspective. He was pitting us against each other. Like, someone who turned out to be one of my really good friends at the end of everything, when I first was introduced to them, he told me that that's my competition. And I'm like, I don't want to see someone else in my company as my competition. They should be my coworker. Right? We should support each other and help each other. I don't want to view them as competition, but because he said that, he put that in my head that I have to see them in that way, or I have to compare myself to what they're doing in that way. And I hated that. I don't like comparing myself to other people. I mean, sometimes we all do that, right? But
Mhm.
like, I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that because you can never be someone else, right? So like trying to compare yourself to someone else like that in your own company it's disgusting. It's gross.
So would you ever consider joining a company again, or are you happy just staying indie?
Right now, probably not. Um, Later in the future, maybe if it was a well-established company. Like the thing is with a lot of the companies right now, they're kind of not really working out the way that they're supposed to, right? Just look at some of the people that have left the really big ones, like
Mm-hmm.
Niji Sanji, and you know what I mean. All a lot of those, right?
Yeah.
So with the way that VTube companies are going right now, it's kind of hard to say. I probably wouldn't join one right now because I'm enjoying just being indie, doing my own thing, not having to ask anybody else, can I do this? Can I get this art piece? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I ask myself that, ask my community, what do you guys think of me getting this type of art piece? And they're going to say, yeah. I could be like, how about an art piece of me upside down wearing, a hot dog outfit? And they'll be like, yeah, that's great. That sounds so good. I was like, okay, I was just kidding, but okay. You know what I mean?
And I
But
think indie is the way to go. I
right now,
mean,
yeah.
I've seen a lot of not even Niji Sanji, but recently all the graduates from Hololive, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of them
Yeah.
say just a lot of them, and I also have to look at it as corporation speak.
Mhm.
When they say disagreement with management, that could be 100 million different reasons.
1,000% things,
And I know a
yeah.
lot of people on Twitter seem to think the worst. It could just be something as contract negotiation on money.
Mhm.
Their contract's up. They are just not happy getting, what they're doing, or not happy with
Mhm.
the percentages, things like that.
Mhm.
It could be something that simple. Or if it's a health related issue, they need more time away from streaming. Whereas,
Mhm.
I mean, like Hololive, they stream it all the time. They're performing all the time. They're,
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
that's
no
going to take
breaks, there's no vacation.
it takes a toll on the body, no
It
matter
does.
what. And
Mhm.
I could see that. And then I've seen a lot of them that have went to indie. They're doing great, you
Yeah,
know, and
because all
even
on
better
their
than
own
what they
pace.
were. Some of them have
Yeah.
even said, without saying it,
Yeah.
that being indie is way more free, and you can collab with who you want to collab with. You don't have to
Mhm.
worry about, you know,
Company image or
yeah,
yeah.
and you have your own creative rights to everything at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing also is being able to have your own creative rights to do whatever you want with your own model. Like, um I've talked about it before. With my current model, technically, I legally do not own it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that the copyright works with the company that we used for my design, it goes to the person who made the commission, not the person who uses it. So Ray technically owns my model because he's the one that did the commission.
Right.
Um, will he ever do anything legally to me? I don't think he'd stand a chance.
Mm-mm.
But that's just one less thing I do have to think about fairly often, is save up for 2.0, so I just don't have to worry about that. Because just because he hasn't yet doesn't mean he won't, and he might never.
Yeah.
But it's always
It's always in the back of
nice.
your mind that
It is.
it could happen. And then
It could
you
happen.
have to, and more than likely, you would win, but then that's lawyers' time out of your
Yeah.
day. And
Lawyers I can't afford, time that
yeah.
I don't have.
Yeah. And then at that point, it's better just not rebranding, but just go to a new model. That way they can't
Mhm.
say, well, I own it.
Yeah. Yeah. Granted, the studio, like I reached out to them and they're working on a couple new toggles for me. Like, so I'm still in good standing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I even tried, and I was like, can you like resell the thing to me? Because technically he did say that he was giving me the rights to the model by saying that he was wiping my debt.
Mm-hmm.
But legally, from how I'm understanding it, they can't, right? You can't resell copyright to someone else.
Right.
So,
And
it's not like it was, there's no limitation on an image like that.
No. And it's too risky. I agree with you on that. Which, but I see it as this way, with 2.0 debut, you'll basically consider that.
That'll be like another year from now, but yeah.
Closing the book of an old chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the happy ending. Then once you have your 2.0, you close the book entirely of the old chapters and everything, and you start a new story. That's the way I look at that.
Yeah.
It's a new journey.
One of the biggest reasons why I also did my event, I was calling it an asset-a-thon to kind of get a bunch of different assets that I was supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main reasons why I did that is because during the whole entire time I was in Virtux, I looked at my scenes and everything and just like, yes, I paid for it, but it doesn't feel like mine because I had to stay within the cookie cutter that he was giving me. I had to have certain sized things, certain scenes, certain whatever, right? In some ways I had free reign, but I still had to kind of like ask for permission to do certain things. So with my new stuff, it's all whatever I want to do within Twitch TOS, obviously, right? Like that's my only, what I can and cannot do is Twitch TOS.
Like for example, your background you have now, that's a perfect setting for a siren. The lighthouse, the ocean, that's when you're saying it was all, just browns and stuff, I'm like, that don't fit a siren.
It was dark. It was like light tan and brown with some coffee beans on the side. And that was it.
That's awful.
And I was like, yeah, but the thing with the background that I have right now is as lovely as it is, as much as I do like it, I purchased it off of Booth. So anyone can go to the website and get it. And when I initially signed up with the company, I was supposed to have custom scenes. I got the custom scenes technically, but it's just a brown scene with some coffee beans. And the coffee beans look like mice turds.
Oh no.
Because they that's just when I looked at them, I'm just like, oh, it's coffee bean. Yeah, no, it's coffee beans. But I had to stare at it for a minute and be like, okay, yeah, no, that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're like, how does that fit my character?
Yeah, it would be cute if I stuck with my panda look, because it had more of those brown colors to it, but because I didn't, I rebranded. And we didn't have the model when we did the design phase for those scenes. We had my panda thing. So it would have worked for that, but with this,
yeah.
When I applied it and put it on, I was just like, no, it does not look good. It doesn't look good at all.
If you could give one advice to anybody that's inspiring to be a VTuber or they're looking to join a company, as I know that's one thing I've noticed on X is so many people are trying to join companies or groups. What would be the one advice that you would say to look out for as a red flag? Or if you have a couple.
If you're just starting, don't even look at a company. Stay indie for as long as you can. And if you still want to go for a company, even if you've been doing it for 5+ years, then look into a company. Because by then, you'll have the resources and the knowledge of what that company is like, people that have gone into the company, stuck around, or maybe they left really quickly. You'll have ways to find out why that person left. Either that person was not a good person or the company was not a good company. But don't go into VTubing trying to immediately do company. There's tons of free resources that you can find. So just because you want to be a VTuber doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend $500 or $600 on one scene. You can find a bunch of different free to use ones on Ko-Fi and on Booth, and from VGen, some people have free to use. All you have to do is just credit them, and that's it. Like, what better way to get started than having artist custom made things, but we're not made of money. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's like I said, tons of free resources. Spend a little time to do some research. People gather websites like Reddit, and there's Twitter accounts that are just like free to use VTube assets, and that's all they post. It's free to use VTube assets, and some people, like I said, they just want to be credited for you using their asset. If you're going to go company, really look into the people who are still there on top of people who have left. Really look into it. Again, take the time. Don't rush into anything. If you rush into something, you're going to end up like me. And that's not a nice place to be in, where you're not sure if the thing that you created with a friend at 5 a.m. is going to be legally yours within a couple years, or technically a couple months. So I have to say that's the biggest thing, is just take your time. There's no rush. No one's going anywhere that fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes time on that.
It does.
All right, Mukya, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And so this is kind of the last piece. Do you have any other thing you would like to share about yourself, or any important advice you'd like to give the audience?
Advice. Other than the free asset thing, the biggest one that I say is be active on your socials, but don't voice everything. Sometimes things are better left just in your head. Not because they're not important. It's just there's a time and place and specific people that you need to tell those things to. But be active on socials. Don't just like and retweet. Comment on things. If the only thing that you want to say on somebody else's post is that's cool, just say it. Just say that's cool. Because that person is going to see that. They're going to like that you saw that. They're going to be like, oh, I really like that person's design. I really like whatever it is. That's how I met so many people, is I saw a post on Twitter and I was just like, that's hilarious. And that's all I said was, haha, that's it. That's all I said. But I went to that person's page, or they came onto mine. I saw that they followed, and I was like, oh yeah, I commented on that person. Now let me go check them out. And now we're really good friends. Right? So that's how you socialize. I personally do not like the posts of people being like, I'm looking for friends. Is anyone out there looking for friends? Don't
Oh, no.
Don't do those ones. I'm sorry. Don't. Just don't. Like, they're good for engagement if that's all you're looking for. But if you're actually looking for friends, respond to people. Go to their channel. You have to invest time into people for them to invest time into you. If your post is going to be nothing but I'm looking for friends, that's not looking for friends. I'm sorry. It's really not.
I see those all the time. I agree with you on that. I see it all the time. I need friends. I'm looking for friends. What?
Yeah. I mean, like, I've rolled the dice a handful of times with those. I'm just like, oh, I see you're looking for people to play this repo collab with you. I'm available on that day. I'll do that repo collab with you. I did the collab and it was not great. Not great. And it's not because they weren't good people. It's just my personality doesn't mesh well with theirs. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how am I supposed to know that unless I invested the time to get to know that person?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of creators have made that mistake.
Yes. It happens. It does happen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's always going to be trial and error, especially when you're making, trying to find people to, collab with, to play things with, how to, actually make friends. But you have to think about it as if you're actually going to make friends with those person. Because if you're going into a relationship thinking only of business, then you will only have a business relationship with that person. That person will never be a friend.
100% true on that. Well, Mukya, I want to thank you again for coming on here to be part of the Creators Corner and have this interview. I know it's been a pretty long interview. For the audience, I will have all her links to her Twitch and YouTube down below in the comments. So definitely please go check her out. She is sensational. And with that, I want to thank you again and have a good night.